Hey guys, and welcome back to Furry Tales.
We're so glad to have you with us again today, and we have a very, very fun-filled episode today. What do you think is everyone's favorite type of animals to talk about?
Well, my favorite animals are dogs.
Yes, dogs. We're gonna check out some canines and felines, dogs and cats today. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
It's gonna be awesome. Let's go.
Our world is full of so many amazing creatures, and they live all around us, and we coexist with them every day. In this show, we're going to look at some of those creatures and some of the wonderful people who work with them.
This is Furry Tales.
So today we're going to do something pretty cool. We're going to visit our very own shop, Furry Tales, which we do grooming and boarding here. Well, we've called some of our customers to come in, some of our purebreds, and we're going to introduce you to some pretty cool breeds. I promise you're going to learn something today. Let's go check it out. A common question that a lot of us have is, well, where did the domesticated dogs come from that we have as pets? Have they always been domesticated? Well, the truth is, no, they haven't been. And as you can guess, they are direct descendants from wild wolves. Well, as it goes, history shows us that hunter-gatherers and humans used to migrate a lot in ancient history. And as they migrated, they would leave scraps behind. And well, the wolf packs would follow them. And the more the wolf packs followed, and the more they were getting this food from the humans, naturally and accidentally, they became more friendly with the humans. And vice versa, the humans became more friendly with the wolves because the wolves offered them protection from behind. Well, as time went on, and as gene pools moved on, these wolves started becoming domesticated until they became pets for these humans. Pretty cool fact. And that is why you have little Fido at home today. So the French bulldog, which is what Artie here is a pretty cool dog. Now they're really unique in the fact that, well, they were actually bred in England to start with. The English really wanted to have a smaller English bulldog to play with so that they could hold them in their lap because the lace industry was really big back then. Well, what happened is they started breeding toy bulldogs, and the lace industry ended up moving to France. And once they got in France, well, they started breeding them with terriers, and thus became, in the mid-19th century, the French bulldog. Now, as you can tell, very playful dogs, extremely. In fact, of any breed of dog, this is probably the dog you're gonna wanna have if you have a newborn baby. These guys are excellent babysitters. They have a good temperament, and they're easy to deal with. They love to play with little humans. It's very true. All right, now, here's a fun fact about these guys, and you gotta be careful. This is one of the only breeds that absolutely cannot swim. So if you own a pool, or if you're close to a lake or a river source, you're gonna wanna keep an eye on these guys because they absolutely have no ability to swim. Very neat dog, very cool fact. Another interesting fact about the French bulldog is because they have that flat snout, just like in other similar breeds, they can't fly. It's actually not a good idea to put them on an airplane at all because they have trouble breathing. One of the #1 deaths about breeds when they get up in the high altitude is a French bulldog. So if you're gonna fly or if you need to travel somewhere, I would highly recommend looking for an alternative means for dogs like this. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if you're gonna choose to be a French bulldog owner, well, there's two things you gotta keep in mind. One, they're a talkative breed. They're gonna bark, and you don't wanna discourage that because it's what they're bred to do. So if you're gonna get one, they're gonna yap a little bit. Now here's the other thing. Of all breeds on the planet, the French bulldog is the most sensitive dog. He does not accept criticism very well. So if you're gonna train one, you really need to go the route of positive reinforcement and keep it about positive reinforcement. Yelling, scolding, Definitely not whacking. You don't want to do that with this guy because he's not going to understand it, and he's not going to understand it in the way that you want him to. Very sensitive. If you yell at a Frenchie, if you keep an eye on him, you'll see him start to get depressed and pout and go mope in a corner somewhere in a house. They really actually do that, and that's because they were bred to be sensitive dogs. Now here's a fun fact about the French Bulldog that you just might not know. It is actually the #1 preferred breed amongst celebrities in the world today. And there's a reason for that. They're hard to come by. And the reason they're hard to come by is, well, they don't breed very easy. In fact, over 90% of French Bulldogs that are purebred had to be bred by artificial insemination. Very fun fact. The bluetick coonhound is a cool dog, really cool. In fact, in the South, it's actually part of the culture these guys are. The University of Tennessee has it as their mascot, Smokey, a purebred bluetick coonhound. Now the dog breed actually originated in 1946 in Louisiana, and they were a descendant and bred from the English foxhound, which is really cool. In fact, the bluetick was called an English foxhound until 1946 when they decided it needed to be its own breed. Pretty cool fact. So the bluetick coonhound gets its name also because of this bluish hue that they have in their coat. That's actually, they're not blue. It's actually because they have these black spots and they're right next to that white background that makes them look blue from a distance. Now these guys can be really good pets. They'll live a good long life, usually on average between 11 to 15 years, which is really good. Now if you train them right and you treat them right when they're young, as they grow up, they will be super loyal. They will be very smart. They have the ability to actually problem solve, which is pretty unique in a dog. Usually they just do what they're taught to do, but that dog can actually think through what she's doing, what she's eating, where she's hunting, what she's looking for in the woods. And that's what makes her a really good hunter, because when she's in the woods, she's not distracted by much of anything else. Pretty cool.
Pugs have always been a super popular breed of dog, especially with the royal families. And in some instances, pugs had their very own royal palaces. How cool is that? Pugs were also important in the religious cultures and sometimes were kept in monk monasteries. This dog breed has actually won the World Dog Show. And this particular dog, which is named Pickles, is the perfect example of a pug with his short snout, cute wrinkly face, and his fawn-colored coat. Pugs were actually bred to be lap dogs. In fact, Napoleon's wife even had a pug. Thing to remember is they're pretty stubborn and they only do what they want to do. So if you're looking for a more agile and active dog, he might not be the one for you, but super lovable. Pickles here represents a full-size pug. So this is about the size that your pug will be when he's full grown.
Now here's a really cool story. The pug is actually the official breed of the Dutch House of Orange. It's pretty much royalty, and here's why. Back in the 1500s, in the 80 Years' War, well, the Dutch were up against the Spanish, and the Prince of Orange, Prince William, was actually asleep in his tent, and some Spanish assassins came in to attack him and to take him out. Well, once they came in, his dog, which was a pug named Pompey, jumped into action. He jumped on his chest, started licking his face to get his attention, and he awoke just in time to see his assassins, and they were apprehended. And because of that, the pug was instant royalty for the rest of time. And even today, he's still the official breed of the House of Orange. Pretty cool. So what we have here is actually the tallest breed in the world. This is an Irish wolfhound, and he can be up to his shoulder, 36 inches tall, which is big. In fact, if I was to stand up right now and he stood up on his hind legs, he would be taller than I am. He's awesome. Now here's a little bit of fun facts about these guys. They are pretty ancient. The Irish actually used to use them in big packs because they like to hunt with them. And they didn't hunt small game with these guys. They went for the big stuff, the big deer, the big elk. That's what these guys went after. Now, here's the deal. The armies actually used to have them. The Irish army used to once have 300 of these guys that they would send into battle, not to attack, but to actually make their enemies afraid because not many other people in the world knew about the Irish Wolfhound at that time. Now he's pretty popular. In fact, 2 US presidents have had these guys, JFK and President Hoover. both had Irish wolfhounds. They had them at the White House as well, which is pretty cool. Hey there, hello. Very sweet. Now, just what you saw just now, these guys are not good guard dogs. Here's why. They love everybody. Every stranger they meet is their buddy. So if you're getting one of these guys for protection, it just needs to be because they look intimidating, not because they are, because they're so darn sweet. Very good family pet. Now here's the thing to remember. If you're gonna get one of these guys, they're not gonna live a very long time. Because of their size, because of how huge they are, they typically only live about 6 years on average, at best up to 10 years. But they're really cool dogs. These are one of my favorite breeds, and they're so cool. But back in the 1800s, which wasn't that long ago, they were almost extinct. In fact, they did consider them extinct. If you look right now in the field of Gettysburg, during the Civil War, there is a memorial erected that has a big wolfhound lying down in sorrow, and underneath it said, the Irish wolfhound, which has been extinct for over 100 years. And thank goodness for conservationists back then who got these guys back on track. And now they're not extinct anymore. They're just lovable, awesome dogs. Beautiful dogs. I'm here with a couple of beautiful Shar-pei, and they're beautiful dogs. And I say they because there's a couple of them here. One of them's running around. So Shar-pei are really awesome. They have that wrinkly head, and they're known for that wrinkly look that they have. Well, they were bred specifically for that reason, because they used to be royal guard dogs for the Chinese royalty as long back as 200 BC. Now the reason they have that wrinkled texture is because they were bred so that other dogs could come in, and if they attacked them, they wouldn't really hurt them bad. They would just get skinned. So they were bred to have this loose skin so that if they got bit, well, that's all they would get would be skin. Now, the word Shar-pei actually means sand skin. If you were to pet these guys, which are so loving, they're great pets to have. But their skin, their fur, is kind of rough. It is like rubbing sandpaper, and that's on purpose as well. Because remember, these were built to be guard dogs. The female is around 40-45 pounds, and the male, hey baby. The male gets up to 65 pounds. They're really big. These are a couple males right here. Absolutely beautiful, perfect dogs. If you're looking for a good family pet, these guys are good to consider. And the reason is, they love to play. And they're really good with little kids as well, because they have a docile personality and they enjoy playing. Pretty agile as well for a stocky dog. So here's an interesting fact. Back during the wartime in the 1940s, at one point the Shar-pei was actually the rarest dog in the world. And the reason for that was because the Chinese government was regulating them. But ironically, there was a magazine called Life magazine that actually saved this dog from total extinction. They posted an ad back in the 60s and 70s, and the cover of the magazine was a Shar-pei. And it was bringing awareness to the fact that the Chinese government had actually almost completely annihilated this breed. Well, because of that article that they published, immediately the demand for these dogs came back and the breed became reborn again. Pretty cool fact. It is so important that you know exactly what kind of activity level that your dog needs if you're going to get a certain breed. But even more important than that is knowing what kind of food they need to eat. It is super important. All dogs do not eat the same. For example, some dogs that are high activity level, they need a high protein diet. Some dogs have a hard digestive system. Well, they need a food that's geared towards their digestive system. But here's an important one, and one that you gotta pay attention to. A lot of people's dogs have a lot of skin issues, and they don't understand why. And most of the time people say it's because of the environment. Well, that's not true. The majority of time, the reason dogs have skin problems are they don't have the right amount of oil in their diet. Check out your dog's diet. If you're having a skin issue, that's where I would start. But knowing what to feed your dog is super important, and also knowing when to feed your dog is super important.
Here at Furry Tales, we like to keep our dogs on a routine feeding schedule. We do it in the mornings and at evenings to coordinate with our playtimes. We also give them snacks and treats throughout the day.
One of the greatest misconceptions out there are about shelters, and they associate them, many people associate them as pounds. Well, that's not true. In fact, shelters, just like shelters here at McKamey Animal Center in Chattanooga, Tennessee, they're not here to just coop up dogs and to take in rescue dogs. They come to rehabilitate these dogs, to make them a better fit for their owners for adoption, to make sure that they have the proper medicines that they need. And guess what? They get nothing but attention while they're here. Come on, let's go check it out. So one of the greatest misconceptions that there is out there is that when a dog or a cat comes to a shelter like this, that they're put into these small cages or rooms and just left there. Well, obviously, that's not the case. Look how much playroom that they have. And that's not it. Look how much they're loved and the individual attention that they get. And it's not just by 1 or 2 people. It takes hundreds of volunteers and employees to make a difference and to give these dogs and cats an amazing life. Wow, what a great place. Places like this, like McKamey Animal Center here in Chattanooga, and other places like this. What a difference they make in the world. So as you can see, they don't just take these dogs in and just feed them and play with them every now and then. They actually work with them and work with their behaviors and their posturing and their training so that they can be rehomed, and that when they are rehomed, they're an amazing pet. It's more than just feeding and playing with these dogs. It's a higher level of behavioral therapy for them as well. So here's a fact that you might not know, but it's a pretty cool fact. Well, there's a common belief that black dogs, just like this one, like Duncan, are harder to adopt in shelters like this. Well, that's not true. The reason that it seems like black dogs are there longer is because there are more of them. Black is the most common color dog that there is. And the shelters, the highest percentage of dog they have, well, it's black. So there's a fact that you might want to share with your friends and get rid of that negative myth. So we're here with Suzanne here at McKamey, and I just gotta say, this operation is incredible. How many people does it take to run an operation like this?
Thanks. We've got about 50 staff, but it takes more than that.
Yeah.
We've got a core of volunteers, and we are currently expanding them, and we need to because we can't do it without them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, right now we probably have about 50 steady volunteers. We could use maybe could quadruple that.
Oh, wow. So yeah, literally you're saying you could use up to 200 volunteers for a place like this.
Or more, yes.
Or more. Wow. That's incredible. So volunteering's majorly important.
Yes.
And 50 people on staff is no joke, right? So a lot of people misconstrue and have a big misconception that a shelter is a pound, and that's just not the case at all. As we can see, this is an amazing facility. These dogs are really well taken care of. They have lots of room to play. What's the biggest difference that separates this from a pound?
It's just the mindset, what we're trying to do. There are some technical legal descriptions that you may find from state to state that changes what a pound officially is. Bottom line is we want to be here for not just the animals in our care, but our community. I want to make sure that they're able to adopt, volunteer, foster, and they can get some questions answered.
So Suzanne, what I can see is that it is so important that wherever there's a shelter like this in any community, it's very important that the community is tied in with that shelter. For the purpose of what you just said, like we just talked about, it's very important that they have a place to go if they've exhausted all their options locally, right?
Right.
So how can the shelter and the community be united? What are the advantages to that?
A lot of what we're going to be looking to do in terms of connecting is some of the stuff people have heard of but can't figure out how it fits their life. It may be fostering, it may be adopting, it may be volunteering.
Gotcha. Wow. Very cool. You guys are awesome. What y'all are doing here is amazing. Thank you so much, Suzanne.
This has been great. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So if you're going to get the opportunity to be the proud owner of a dog or a cat, one thing you got to remember is they're not all the same. You can't train all dogs exactly the same. And the reason is they learn differently, just like human children. They have different levels of learning and different behavior types. And that's why it's important that if you're struggling with a dog, don't give up on it. Don't just surrender a dog because you can't handle it. One thing you may need to do is meet with a behavior specialist. These people know exactly what they're doing, and they can do an analysis on your pet and tell you what's gonna work to deal with your pet. I would try that before you surrender them to anywhere. So I'm here with Beth, and you are the behavior enrichment manager here with the animals. And one of the things that you guys do here is a great misconception that people have is dogs come to the shelter and they're just put in crates and that's about it. But you guys do so much more than that. And one of them is working with them to make sure that they are adoptable and that they're ready for their forever home, correct?
Correct.
All right, so tell us what you do.
So when dogs come in, we assess them behaviorally after they've been here a few days to give them a chance to settle down. We make sure that they're going to be okay with us petting them. We're taking their food and toy away. We ask politely first, of course.
Right.
And if they're not, they fail some portion of a test, then we go back and give them some chances, give them a while to recoup out of that. And also we work with dogs that have dog issues too, dog-to-dog aggression.
Right, okay, so this is important because a lot of people fear adopting a dog from a shelter, but what you're telling me is that any dog that is adoptable has been through this program and you guys have deemed that they are ready for a home, right?
Yes, yeah. We would not place a dog knowingly into a home that we thought was going to cause damage or harm to any other animal or person.
That's awesome. So really cool. Okay, we're going to talk about it because, well, I just learned it, okay? You actually can teach dogs to read sign language, like dogs that are hard of hearing, right? A little bit.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, so when you have a dog that's hard of hearing, which they need forever homes just like anybody else, is that something that you pass on to the new family?
Oh, absolutely. And we give them lots of resources that they can look at online, Facebook groups like Deaf Dogs Rock. They are amazing. Support them.
That's awesome.
We tell them about this dog, particular dog's behavior and the signs that we've taught them and things that to avoid or things to do. So.
Right, that is incredible. That's incredible. So every dog that comes through, which is thousands of dogs a year here, which is amazing. But every dog you assess them before they get put out, right?
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes.
All right, I'm here with Dr. Wim, and he is the lead vet here at McKamey. And apparently, what happens in the shelter is so much bigger than what people. It's not just the dogs come in and then hope to get adopted. You guys do a lot. We met Beth, who works with their behavioral training to get them ready to be adopted. But then there's you. Okay, tell us what you do.
Well, the bulk of my day is doing surgeries. Actually, we're doing spays and neuters to make sure that the animals are healthy.
Yeah.
And doing spays and neuters to make sure that they don't procreate and contribute to pet overpopulation. The other part of the day is in the afternoons. Usually, I am making sure that the animals are healthy. A lot of times the staff will put care requests in the computer. Basically, they'll let me know, hey, this particular animal is sick, it's vomiting, or this particular animal is limping, can you look at it? So we do physical exams on them to make sure that they're healthy and try to figure out what the cause of these particular issues are so we can treat them.
So yeah, and there's a lot of staff here, a lot of staff. So, and these are the people who are working with them every day. And what you're saying is, as they work with these animals, if they see something that just doesn't look right, they'll put in a request with you to check them out. So not only are you doing all these surgeries, which impacts the community in a big way, but you're also running an animal hospital almost with the dead guests who are here, right?
Well, yeah, that's just the animals here. I mean, sometimes we have people trying to bring animals from outside of here into here also, and we've got to help them if we can.
What you do?
Sometimes we do.
Oh, wow.
We're not an emergency clinic. We're not set up like that. We don't have the diagnostics. We don't have a lot of the treatment abilities that most private veterinarians or emergency hospitals have. But we can look at them and do a good physical exam and tell a lot of times what the problem is. And if it's out of our hands and there's nothing we can do, then we'll send them somewhere else.
Sure. That's amazing. Wow. So you're impacting this community more than just helping the dogs you guys take in or the cats or whatever. You're doing much more than that's amazing. You're amazing. We love dogs. Dogs are amazing and there's so many different breeds. But dogs aren't the only animal that we love to have around the house. We also love our kitty cats. Yes, we love cats. In fact, Americans have as many cats as pets as they do dogs. That's an interesting fact. The reason we don't know that as much is because most of them are house cats. And you don't exactly see a lot of us walking around our cats on leashes. A little bit different than the dog. But where did the cat come from? It did, just like you can imagine, come from its counterparts over in Africa. The big lions and the tigers. That's where they originated. Now, unlike the dog, where the wolves followed the humans and became more domesticated that way, the cats actually were more aggressive in becoming domesticated themselves. It didn't take a lot of human interaction. And that's where the Egyptians came into play, because they saw the cats as gods, and because the cats began to interact with them even more, they saw that as a sign that the gods were becoming more human-like. And therefore, as time went on, the Egyptian civilization introduced us to the idea of domesticated cats. So I'm here with one of the most commonly known cats in the world, and that is the calico cat. Now, contrary to popular belief, the calico cat is actually not a breed. In fact, the word calico means 3-color. So all calico cats can be any breed. You can have Persian calico cats, for an example. Now, typically, she's a perfect example of a calico. They'll have anywhere from 25 to 75% of their body that'll be white, which she has, as you can see on her legs and her belly. I know, baby. And she also has this orange and black fur. Now, her fur is actually not that color because the hair just grew that way. Her hair is this color because her skin. The skin actually controls the color of a calico. So there's a common question. Is the calico cat always going to be a female? Well, the answer to that question is almost yes. In fact, out of 3,000 calico cats that are born, 2,999 of them are going to be female. All but one will be a male. And the reason that the male is the anomaly is because he has a chromosome deficiency. He has an XXY instead of the XY. Therefore, he actually has a syndrome, similar to the humans having Down syndrome. Well, the calico male is the version of a Down syndrome cat. Now, that being said, he is also sterile and he cannot reproduce. Fun fact about the calicos, very gorgeous cats, and they're always pretty good tempered. Now, one more thing. You'll never see 2 calico cats of any breed that are exactly the same. Every one of them has a different skin pigmentation, and therefore every one of them will have a different fur pattern because of that. Pretty cool, awesome cat too. All right. Another very common and easily identifiable domesticated cat is the Siamese cat. Now, Paninsky here is a very good example of a common Siamese cat. He's got that beautiful silver fur with those black tip ears, but he also has what all Siamese cats have, that signature beautiful blue eyes, which he has. Now, these guys originated in Asia back in the 19th century, and they were very famous. In fact, all royal families had Siamese cats. And even still, presidents today, it's the #1 cat that presidents of the United States have in the White House. Now, one thing about Siamese cat is their fur color is all about their genetics and also temperature, what climate that they live in. Now here, we're in a warmer climate. We're in the southeast United States, so he's gonna have a lot of silver. But the further north you go, or in colder climates in different parts of the world, you'll see more and more of these that are less silver and more black. And the reason for that is, the colder the temperature, for an example, when their body temperature averages being around below 100 degrees, because their temperature usually hovers around 101 to 102 degrees. But if it gets below 100 degrees on a consistent basis, their skin will release a pigment, and that pigment starts giving their fur color. And therefore, the colder the climate, the more colorful your Siamese cat's gonna be. That's a pretty cool fact. One more really fun fact about the Siamese cat is they're known for that signature cross-eyed look. And that's because once upon a time, several hundred years ago, their genetics were very strong, having cross-eyed. It was actually an anomaly that became very popular. Well, now, the species that we have, most all of them are genetically influenced by that species hundreds of years ago. Therefore, most Siamese cats, when you look them straight on, well, they're gonna look a little bit cross-eyed, because they are, and they will always be that way. Cats are amazing, and they're great to have as pets. You gotta love those personalities. Let's go back to McKamey and meet with their behavior specialists and see how they work with cats themselves.
So we are working on that program now. Right now, our animal care manager takes care of that. They do get their own assessment, and we see how they are with being petted and handled, restrained, because cats love to be restrained.
Right.
I don't like to be hugged either, so I get it. Anyway, and we talk about their personalities. We also are doing some clicker training, and one of our animal care specialists clicker trains her cats to do all kinds of neat things like high five and down and sit. It's amazing.
Wow. That is amazing. Yeah. That's incredible.
Yeah, you can clicker train anything.
That's incredible too, because normally you only see that with dogs.
Right.
Anyway, that's really cool. Or zoo animals in some cases. That's amazing. That's very, what you're doing is amazing. And it's huge. And it's people like you that make the world go around. So thank you so much.
Oh gosh, thank you.
having a pet is such a great opportunity, but it's also a responsibility that we have to our community. One thing that's super important is that we spay and neuter. It's very critical for their health. Let's go back to McKamey and meet with the vet, and he's going to tell us a little bit about why that's so important.
Well, to spay an animal is to remove the uterus and the ovary. So we're preventing that one from being able to have puppies or kittens in most cases. Occasionally I'll do rabbits also, so baby rabbits. We're preventing those from being born. Overpopulation is huge, and so preventing them from being born, we're also preventing these dogs and cats from maybe having infected uteruses, with pyometra. They can have other problems from being intact. They can develop cancer from being intact for too long, and so those are things that we prevent by spaying and neutering.
Yeah, sure. And overpopulation is it's a easy way to spread disease out in the community. So it's very important, right?
Absolutely.
So one thing that we can all definitely agree on is that dogs are amazing. They truly are man's best friend. But I want to encourage you, find your local shelter, a shelter like McKamey's Animal Center here in Chattanooga, a shelter that's making a difference in the community. Volunteer your time, volunteer your service, volunteer food, treats, whatever they need. Just give them a call, see what they need. Because I promise you, if you make a difference in a community like this, you'll make a difference for hundreds and hundreds of dogs and cats in your local community. I promise it'll be rewarding. Try it out.
I absolutely loved every single dog and cat we met today.
Yeah, they're so awesome. It's good to have as pets. And don't forget to support your local shelters and do what you can to help your community. All right, don't forget to visit us at furrytalesshow.com. That's TALES, and also follow our Facebook page.
Yes.
Thanks for joining us today.
Bye.